Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
What is up? Welcome to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast on a Tuesday. My name is Tom Dougherty, your host. As always, this podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. As we have now come to the end of minicamp, come to the end of OTAs, we are now kind of figuring out who's going to be holding out, who's not, who really wants a new contract. I know one of the main people I talked about holding out in the last show, who I actually said probably should hold out, that was Zach Martin on the Cowboys, the guard of the Cowboys, the All-Pro, Pro Bowl guard, been like that since he's a rookie. He signed a deal with the Cowboys over the last week, few days actually. That did make him. It got him the money that he needed, that he deserved at least, as he was able to get the new contract. I mean, and become the highest paid guard in the NFL. The exact note on that was a 6-year, $84 million extension. $40 million of that is guaranteed. That's the NFL for you. You're going to get half of it guaranteed because they know that you're in. I mean, obviously, anybody in the NFL is injury prone due to the nature of the game, but I mean that goes back into, I don't know if people listening to my college football show, I do on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the GSMC Football Podcast on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays with me is college football focused. And I've been talking about Kyler Murray, who got drafted by the Oakland A's, and he can go play baseball for fully guaranteed contracts, no problem, or go play football and be an undersized quarterback. And if you're lucky, you'll get a 6-year, $84 million contract. I mean, this is for obviously a completely different position, but just based off of numbers, that'd be a great contract, but you're only going to get half of it guaranteed, not even half. $40 million of it guaranteed for Zach Martin, as he did attend mini camps over the week. And as most of them did wrap up, we get more of a picture of who is holding out, who is not. So it looks like Zach Martin got paid, and he does not. There's no need for him to stay home coming and come training camp. I think Odell Beckham also has been. There's been reports saying that he is confirmed. Those reports saying that he will be attending training camp as well. No news. I think Khalil Mack is still waiting, and so is Aaron Donald. So we still have two big defensive guys, obviously, to be obviously gone. Yeah, no Khalil Mack yet, no Aaron Donald yet, as they wait on new contracts. Obviously, I mean, in the NFL, there's you can restructure stuff. I mean, you could do things and this and that. Obviously, whether you're having players take pay cuts in order to move more money elsewhere. I know Ben Roethlisberger has come out and said that he doesn't really want to think about a contract extension until to this coming off season, and then he actually is willing to leave some money on the table to let the team address some more needs. I mean, more defensive needs. I mean, if you watch that playoff game last year, Big Ben and his weapons, Bell and Brown, and last year they had obviously Martavis Bryant before he's traded, but all those guys on the offense, they did their jobs. They ran up 40 points on one of the best defense in the league, except their defense couldn't do anything to stop the Jacksonville offense. And that was what I think the main problem is with the Steelers. I think that, I mean, obviously they get a horrendous blow when they lose their main guy in the middle there. with Ryan Shazier. But, I mean, that team is just so stacked on the offensive side. You just hope they get a little bit of help on the defensive side, because I think that they get past Jacksonville. They actually makes for a really, really, I mean, obviously, the AFC Championship game was great by itself anyway. I mean, Jacksonville honestly played very well and gave New England a run for their money, and honestly came down to a 4th and 18 that Tom Brady converted to win that game. But, I mean, the Steelers, we always like Steelers and Patriots. I mean, come on. We want to see Steelers-Patriots, but we got a good win anyways. But I'm just saying, at least hopefully the Steelers in the near future can get that money used for some defensive talent, and then obviously Big Ben will take that pay cut that he has been alluding to. But that's not till the offseason. Obviously, we have a lot of time to get to there. In this show, though, now that post-minicamp, post OTAs, post everything, we're going to go back and evaluate some teams, pick out some players that we like fantasy-wise, maybe do some daily fantasy talk as well. Near the end of the show, might throw another mock draft in there because we like to do those. Always like to be ready on our toes for scenarios when we do drafting, but obviously the draft is only part of fantasy football. It's also has to do with finding your sleepers, finding people on the in those waiver wire pickups and everything. Like I said, receivers are kind of a dime a dozen, just like quarterbacks can be sometimes based off of just volume, and they're going to put up good points. But when you have a receiver and you have choices to make, whether you're going to have 2 receiver positions and have a flex, so you can max put three guys in there, or you're going to use your flex for your running back. That's decisions that have to be made week to week, and whether you're going to be finding somebody off the scrap heap in the waiver wire, you can always. I mean, there's some diamonds in the rough in there for sure. Every single year, there's diamonds in the rough in the waiver wire, and I think a lot of it has to do with things that we don't quite know yet. Like, obviously, there's for example, like DJ Moore. Obviously, DJ Moore was just signed his rookie contract with the Carolina Panthers over the weekend, and I think he's going to get drafted. But say he doesn't get drafted, and he's a guy who gets picked up in the second week off of waivers, and all of a sudden we realize, oh, he's a huge part of this Carolina Panthers offense. I don't think that's going to happen. It's just a hypothetical because he's a rookie. But I think he's going to get drafted. We already kind of know that he's a big part of that offense, and he's going to be a big part of that offense. I've seen reports out saying so. But we don't know the chemistry between him and Cam Newton yet. We don't know the timing. We don't know. Obviously, Cam has a tendency to be a little wild with his throws. Not the most accurate quarterback in the world, but if DJ Moore shows the ability to get separation from his defender, from the safety or the corner that's on him, I mean, by all means, I've had no reason why he can't become an explosive receiver in this league and be a force fantasy-wise. Because I mean, he was picked in front of Christian Kirk. He was picked in front of Calvin Ridley for a reason. Obviously, the Panthers. The front office thinks that they've found the next guy, whether it's the next Steve Smith or the next Ted Ginn or whatever. I mean, they've had guys down there that have put up some big numbers. Obviously, Kelvin Benjamin was a pick they made out of Florida State, and that didn't really work out, whether it was injury-wise or him and Cam never really got on the same page. He obviously was sent away to Buffalo. But, I mean, that's just kind of the league, I think, these days. And fantasy-wise, like I said, hypothetically, I think, DJ Moore is going to get picked. But, I mean, there's players all over the place. I mean, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head that was picked that was more of like a kind of a sleeper pick. Like, here's my pick. Actually, you know what? Here's my guy for this year. It's Cameron Meredith. You know what team Cameron Meredith's on? The New Orleans Saints. You know what position Cameron Meredith plays? Oh, he's the wide receiver 2 for the New Orleans Saints. And their wide receiver, actually, well, I think he's going to become he's right now listed number 2 for wide receiver 1, actually, behind Michael Thomas. But right now, their wide receiver 2 is Ted Ginn Jr. And I don't think it's going to take very long for Cameron Meredith, who put up go look at his numbers. They're not jump off the page numbers in Chicago, but they were numbers where you're like, okay, he knows how to burn a route. He can get in the end zone. So, I mean, that's a guy who I think is going to get on, if he can get on a good page, if we find out that him and Drew Brees have good chemistry, then you can run with that, because, I mean, this guy he's a 6'3", a 207-pound receiver. I mean, he's a big possession guy. I mean, he's a big dude, big target he's also young. He's only 25 years old. I mean, for the Saints, I mean, he's put up almost... He's been in the league for since 2015, put up 77 catches and 1,000 yards in his career, 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, those touchdowns probably can go up because of, he's been on the Bears for the last 2 years. Their red zone efficiency hasn't been that great as what comes to throwing for touchdowns. I think you're going to have Drew Brees now. I think it's going to be a little more encouraging, but he's on the Saints, and he's kind of a name that nobody really thinks about. I know he's been around fantasy a little bit because he can put up some numbers. He has some good weeks, but and this is a guy who was snagged out of Illinois State, but he's got great size, great hands, and I think him and Drew Brees are can end up hooking up a lot this year. I mean, whether we have Michael Thomas getting double covered or what have you, or Ted Ginn. Obviously, Ted Ginn going to be on the outside. If you could throw, having a 6'3" slot receiver isn't the most normal thing to do, but whether maybe you throw Ted Ginn in the slot and have Cameron Meredith on the outside, you can figure it out your way other ways, and would leave it to Sean Payton to figure that one out. He's in good hands there, but I think Cameron Meredith going to the Saints is a great thing for him because getting in a position where he can be that big receiver, be that guy across from another top receiver in Michael Thomas with a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, how could you go wrong there? How could you go wrong? And so I think that's an example where, now you guys are going to pick him in the draft like last round or something like that, because when you have no picks, like I said, receivers are kind of a dime a dozen. They fall if somebody falls to you. You could find talent at receiver anywhere in the draft. I've been preaching it all week, all month long. When I've been doing my mock drafts, you could find out that there are receivers and there's talent, there's catches everywhere, especially in PPR. I'm going to stock up on some pass catching running backs, maybe one short yardage guy if I want to put somebody in against a team that has like a tough pass defense, something like that, maybe a bigger runner, and then a bunch of receivers, especially for PPR, because you can get so much value off of that catch. I want volume. I want every one of my team to have at least 5 catches, because that's automatic 5 points. I mean, that's 5 points isn't great, but 5 points, automatic 5 points is your base, and then you have all the yards after that. Okay, maybe you're around 10 points now. With that, I added on as your base. 10 points as your base isn't terrible to start, and then you can jump off that. It's always nice to get a little 10-point boost, automatic 10-point boost, and then go off of that. There you go. That's how you can get some wins in fantasy. And then quarterbacking, we've gone through quarterbacks. I know in the mock drafts I draft quarterbacks pretty early because that's just how it works. I guess I could just wait and not draft a quarterback and end up with Matt Ryan or Jimmy Garoppolo every single time, which is fine, honestly. I would not mind running. I think I actually ended up doing that in the draft in a mock draft one time where I had both Matt Ryan and Jimmy Garoppolo and kind of just switched off, but mix and match, because I don't need all my bench players. 6 bench players. That's 6 more decisions I have to make regarding who I want to put in my flex or if I want to mix and match somebody. It's just too much sensory overload sometimes with these bench positions. So might as well take one up with another quarterback, if you feel like it, and then just go off of matchups. Go straight off of matchups. Because I know on Yahoo they tell you they give you the lettering. The coloring where it's like red is means the defense allows the second, they're in the bottom half of the league and points allowed, or top half of the league and points allowed for passing game or receiving to a certain position. Or if it's green, it means they allow a lot of points. Or yellow is more middle of the road kind of thing, So you can kind of get a good gauge on the matchups. Obviously you could do it yourself too. It's not that difficult to figure out. Oh yeah, that team has a good secondary. I am thinking the quarterbacks and the receivers are going to have a tough time today. Yeah, so let's put the other guy in there. You can kind of figure that one out. Oh, the Niners are playing the Vikings. Okay, let's put Matt Ryan in. They're playing the Colts. Okay, that's not that hard. So that's something you can do. And something that I've been thinking about for a while now. But Cameron Meredith, that's my name of the segment. Wrapping up this first segment as we've kind of just been doing commentary here. Post minicamp evaluations is what I've named this thing. We might go through, bounce around a couple different teams and evaluate them. as they do have some question marks. Obviously, the Rams are a team that, for me, that has question marks, even though they made some moves in this offseason. They turned that defense into kind of a mercenary defense with one-year guys. I don't know how many are going to be left over after the seaseason. I think this is going to be the key. The key for them this year is obviously getting Aaron Donald signed, and then on the field, the key is making sure Todd Gurley does not regress at all. Or if he does, it's minor. And he can have another big year like he did last year. All right. That'll wrap it up for this segment. We'll come back and do some more talk. Post minicamp evaluations, might bounce around to different teams and talk about them individually, or just find some more players like Cameron Meredith that I like and have found good new teams for them to really jump off the page this year in fantasy. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, as we trudge through the summertime here, always wishing for more football. If you are looking for football, the Canadian Football League is in full swing right now, FYI. I mean, it's interesting. You go watch Johnny Manziel. Honestly, yeah, Johnny Manziel is playing Canadian football, so you can go watch Johnny Manziel play football if you need a kick, or go do one of the mock drafts or whatever, for fantasy football as we get ready to get into the home stretch until then training camp, get through training camp. Hopefully we stay as healthy as humanly possible, then obviously through the preseason and then into draft week. Obviously, I mean, it depends. I think everybody should wait till the day after at least the last preseason game to draft their fantasy teams. The last thing you want is to take somebody and then have them get hurt. I think it happens like every year, whether it was David Johnson last year. I mean, that was a different, well, that was week one, but where people have been hurt in preseason and they already got taken on a team, which is kind of annoying and unfortunate. But, there's ESPN to come out with their list of 192 players that should be on every team. And, of course, I already know because I did all these mock drafts, and I already know. I mean, DJ Moore, I don't like how. Look at all these receivers. Oh my gosh, so many receivers on this list. This is ridiculous. How many receivers? The first quarterback is Aaron Rodgers at 64. So it goes to show you the sixth round. About the sixth round is when you're going to start picking quarterbacks at the earliest. Of course, yeah. Make sure you keep in knowledge of your fellow drafters, and if you have any eager drafters who are like, no, I'm taking quarterback early, or like me and you're in my league and you know there's a Raider fan and they want to take Derek Carr every year, that one will probably be off the table. But I mean, let him take Derek Carr. It's all right. Right. So we're looking at some of these guys that I'm going to talk about some guys that are going to benefit from having a new quarterback this year. So, like last year, obviously, for example, we have two receivers that are usually pretty productive fantasy players in Denver with Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, but they've had kind of a couple down years due to the fact that they've had Trevor Siemian throwing to them, or a combination of Trevor Siemian and Brock Osweiler, maybe a little Paxton Lynch sprinkled in there as well. But nothing to write home about, nothing great. But they get Case Keenum this year. Case Keenum, I think, this year is going to utilize those weapons a little more. Obviously, they have Royce Freeman as well in the backfield. He's a nice pass catching running back, so I think he's going to be a great safety valve for Keenum to throw to. I mean, he doesn't. The thing about Keenum is he's not going to not really going to drive the ball down the field that much. It's going to help that he's playing at altitude, maybe because to get a little more flight on the ball. But as far as Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders go, I think that those intermediate routes, a lot of PPR possession routes, are going to be very well utilized. Play action is going to be utilized. So I think the fact that you have Case Keenum there is going to really help. Especially, I think it's going to help Sanders, because Sanders gets open on those smaller little windows, and Keenum has shown ability to be able to hit those quick passes and the little dart throws, short yardage over the middle, kind of those West Coast. Let Emmanuel Sanders use his elusiveness to get open, to get away and run for some yards after the catch. So I don't think Emmanuel Sanders, who I've picked him, I've had him on my team as the last few round picks. The last couple of years, he's really up and down. I think there was like a stretch last year where every time I played him, he'd be average to below average, or if I put him on my bench, he'd have a crazy day, or at least it happened one time. So it can be kind of annoying, but I mean that's that's fantasy for you. I think Case Keenum is going to help him out quite a bit there up there in Denver. So same thing with Demaryius. I think the fact that he is at altitude and the ball maybe fly a little further on those deep throws. So Demaryius does like to take the top off the defense, but he's also very valuable in those in-cutting deep routes. We'll see how Keenum can throw the needle down there with those throwing down the middle in the middle of the secondary. Hopefully they can establish a run with Devontae Booker and Royce Freeman in order to get that play action working, because that's really a key for a lot of teams. That's why you see a lot of offenses that can work so efficiently, is because they have the defense guessing, and they're able to use that play action, the play fakes, to get those linebackers moving and allow for voids to open up in the whether it's in a zone or if it's a step on a man-to-man. It doesn't matter if you get zone man combos too. So say that corner is in man-to-man, he thinks he has help on the inside with the linebacker, but the linebacker got sucked in with the play action. Now you have a wide open void in the middle, and that receiver can cut away and get some separation from his corner and then be wide open over the middle of the field. So that could be quite a weapon for the Denver Broncos this season if they can get those young running backs going. Hopefully, obviously, no more CJ Anderson. I think did he go down to Carolina? I think now CJ Anderson no longer with the Broncos, but I mean, so I like Royce Freeman, obviously one of those rookie running backs that came out and part of the really good class. So, and then Devontae Booker, I think, just needed more volume, and I think he wasn't able to kind of get his footing at all due to the fact that he was sharing carries with Anderson now being the number one guy. Yeah, so CJ Anderson started with the Panthers. I was right. It's funny because the team that they played in the Super Bowl 50 a few years ago. But now, like I said, in Denver, it's going to be those two running backs, and then hopefully the new quarterback, Case Keenum, will be able to spread the ball around and get Demaryius Thomas involved, because he could be a very good receiver, obviously, with his hands. And then Emmanuel Sanders, the elusiveness of Emmanuel Sanders can make him an interesting fantasy receiver for sure. All right. Next up is, the Arizona Cardinals. That's a whole different, this is a whole different conversation right now, because it's really up to the coaching staff whether they're going to let Josh Rosen play. I honestly think getting through training camp and such, there's probably going to be 2 of the 4 quarterbacks that maybe 3, because I don't want to count Josh Allen out, because Josh Allen doesn't really have, he has who is AJ McCarron in front of him right now. So there's guys. It obviously depends. All 4 of those rookie quarterbacks got drafted have stop gaps in front of them right now for sure, whether it's Tyrod Taylor in Cleveland, whether it's Sam Bradford in Arizona, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater or Josh McCown in New York, or whether it's AJ McCarron in Buffalo. Those guys are not the guys those teams want under center for very long, if long at all. But they also understand that there's value in letting those rookie quarterbacks take a year to accumulate or accustom themselves to the NFL, and whether they get thrown right into the fire. I do think that there's a definite, not a definite chance, but a probable chance that we get 2 of those 4 quarterbacks starting week 1. If I put maybe 3, I think if I put my money on it, it'd be, I think Baker Mayfield starts. Honestly, I do, because I think that he's the number one pick, and I think he starts at least week 2. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Tyrod Taylor, because I actually like Tyrod Taylor, and honestly, fantasy-wise, Tyrod Taylor has not been, the guy doesn't throw that many picks. He runs the ball, which is always a premium for quarterbacks to get points on the running game, and he throws a nice ball. I mean, gets guys open, and he is able to be efficient in the red zone, too. So, I mean, he's a good fantasy quarterback. The problem is he doesn't get as many, the volume isn't there, because they have Shady McCoy, obviously, or did in Buffalo with Tyrod Taylor, not there anymore. But with Shady McCoy, I think that he took away a little bit of the volume that you could have got from Tyrod Taylor, which is fine, because LeSean McCoy is a better fantasy player anyways, and I think he should be eating the ball anyways. He's more talented and dynamic, and I love LeSean McCoy, especially now with the young quarterback with no more Tyrod. I think he's going to be a very big key for the Bills and going to get a lot of touches this year. That's LeSean McCoy. Hopefully he can be completely healthy and not have to run around in the snow as much as he did last year. As far as those quarterbacks, though, I said, so Josh Rosen, honestly, he's the other guy. I think Baker will start for the Cleveland Browns. I think that he's just going to get in and really show off in training camp. He's great in those practices with the way he throws the ball. He's really going to show off and get that starting spot. The only thing is Tyrod Taylor might actually be the most able stopgap starter that there is of any of them. Like if you compare Tyrod Taylor to AJ McCarron to McCown / Bridgewater to Sam Bradford, Tyrod Taylor probably is on top. Of talent-wise or just production ability-wise for any of those guys, but he's the guy who is sitting with the number one pick right now in that quarterback room. So I think that fact that you're going to get Baker Mayfield starting there is going to affect fantasy for their receivers, because they have some interesting receivers on the Browns. They have a good little core there with Landry and Coleman and Josh Gordon. So I think that they're going to have to figure out that. Obviously, it's going to depend who's at quarterback. But Josh Rosen down in Arizona is another one I want to talk about. Whether it's Sam Bradford or Josh Rosen, you're going to get a new face. You're going to get a new arm to throw that ball to Larry Fitzgerald. Obviously, David Johnson's health is paramount, making sure that he's available. And, I mean, the fact that you have him is huge because, like I said, what did I say before? Play action. Play action has a lot to do with everything, and has a lot to do with making a rookie quarterback comfortable. And when you have a veteran Hall of Fame receiver in Larry Fitzgerald out there, that's a security blanket. And then when you have the ability for David Johnson to really put that defense on its heels or make them overly aggressive to go after the run game, then you can really be creating some spots for Josh Rosen to tear up that defense, because that guy's accurate. The guy's got a great arm. I mean, obviously, we've seen him do it in college. We've seen him do it in all those workouts and everything. He's probably got one of the more he has probably the most polished delivery, most polished quarterback motions and mechanics of any of the four guys to come out of those first four quarterbacks to be taken in the first round. So Josh Rosen, I think that the Jets might take a little bit longer. They're not as quite as the aggressive team, a little more conservative, especially with the defensive coach and Todd Bowles over there in New York. I think that Sam Darnold takes a little bit longer to find the field. The fact that they have two guys who can really get out there and show off and take care of a team just all right with Teddy Bridgewater and Josh McCown. Obviously, I think they're going to be they're going to be taking forever, but they're not going to be in a major rush to get Darnold out there. I honestly think that if there was any quarterback that needed a year, it'd be Josh Allen. Probably that needs a year. All the other three guys probably are okay starting this year. Maybe Sam Darnold could use a year. Josh Allen definitely needs a year to work on his touch, work on his poise and everything in the pocket. Obviously, he has the arm, but I think it's really going to come down to accuracy and touch in the NFL, as it always does. As you see these top quarterbacks, Brady, Breeze, Roethlisberger, Rodgers, all these guys have excellent touch on those short passes, whether it's off their back foot or not. In the screen game, finding those little tight windows, even on the flat or in the short game, it can really lead to big gains in the passing game. So, fantasy-wise, yeah, you have some weapons. You have Robbie Anderson. You have Larry Fitzgerald. I'm talking about receivers. You have, in Buffalo, there's Zay Jones. You got Calvin Benjamin. Where else do we have? I did Arizona. I did New York. Buffalo. Oh, in Cleveland, I just said those three guys. Obviously, Coleman, Gordon, Landry. They're all going to have, whether it's going to be a new quarterback or it's going to be a young quarterback, it's going to be thrown to them everywhere, but actually those stopgaps too. Taylor's new in Cleveland. Sam Bradford's new in Arizona. A.J. McCarron's new in Buffalo. Bridgewater's is new in New York. Yeah, McCallum's been there for a little bit, but all those stopgaps are also new guys. So whether it's the rookie or the other guys throwing, all those outside players, the skilled players, are going to have a new quarterback thrown to them. It could have some fantasy implications. All right, that'll wrap it up for this second segment. We're going to come back and do some more talk on fantasy evaluations after this mini camp, as we did have most of everybody show up. No big omissions from mini camp, obviously, other than those two guys that are holding out, Mac and Aaron Donald, but nothing else really fantasy-wise to know. But we'll do some more evaluations, make sure everybody's all right, and we'll see if everybody, health-wise too, as we're going to do a little check throughout the league when we come back after the break. Stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast on a Tuesday here today. As who was your fantasy MVP last year? I mean, obviously, Aaron Rodgers goes down. You have Le'Veon Bell. Is it Le'Veon Bell? Is it Antonio Brown? Is it a quarterback? I mean, Tom Brady didn't have a crazy season we've got him to see. Carson Wentz was great, obviously gets hurt. There's a lot of players who are coming back from injury who have me a little wary, obviously. Carson Wentz, I think, is going to be just fine. Quarterbacking is as much physical, and he's got all the physical abilities, and I think his rehab will just fine when it comes to coming back from the injury. But as much as it is mental, it is physical as much as it is mental, and he's got the mental acuity. He's got the quarterback knowledge. We've seen his pocket awareness. The things he can do with his feet and with his arm are pretty amazing, and obviously all starts between the ears with his decision making in the head. So I'm not afraid of what Carson Wentz is going to do this year. I'm not afraid of how he's going to come back as far as coming back flat footed or whatever. I think he'll just pick it up right where he left off just fine. More guys like Odell Beckham, that's a different story. I'm staying away from Odell Beckham. Never really been the biggest fan of Odell Beckham. Not really the biggest fan of that whole Giants offense in general. I thought they missed on a transcendent quarterback. I know that they said they liked Sam Darnold, and if Sam Darnold didn't go number one, they would pick him at number two. They didn't. They picked the running back who has a severely... the funniest thing is that they had the other team in their city that they share a stadium with right behind them, and they were going to pick Sam Darnold anyway, so the Giants had to know that. And I think Sam Darnold is going to be a good NFL quarterback. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see a little bit. He's got all the tools, and he's got all this body size and ability to do it. Nobody was too happy about the fact that he throws a lot. He has some interception problems and turnovers. Also, ball security was an issue as well. So whether that was a big red flag for a lot of teams and the fact that he has problems with fumbling the ball. Interceptions, I think, are just coming with it. Brett Favre threw a lot of interceptions. Eli Manning's throwing a lot of interceptions. We've had people throw interceptions. It's not a big deal. But the fumbles are a problem because they're behind a line of scrimmage. You're going to be losing yardage no matter what. You're going to give the other team better field positions no matter what. Interceptions are down the field the other way. And some of them can even be equivocated to a punt. So I would say that touchdown. Interception is not as bad as fumbles, and that was the problem with Sam Darnold. But the Giants, Eli Manning is getting old. I know Saquon's going to be great, but I'm not a big Saquon fan either. I think that you saw his stat. You compare his stats in college to the stats you saw Ezekiel Elliott put up in college in the same conference, mind you, and then the stats that Christian McCaffrey put up in college too. Christian McCaffrey never ran. They looked at games where they averaged more than 3 yards a carry, and I think everybody had about 20 plus or 25 games I think started in college. All three of those guys did, and maybe they look at their senior season. So of the 12 games they played their senior season, I think that Saquon had one game where he averaged over 3 yards a carry. I think Ezekiel Elliott had 11 games where he averaged over 3 yards a carry, and one game where he didn't. And Christian McCaffrey never had a game where he didn't average over 3 yards a carry. He never had a game where he didn't average over 4 yards a carry. So he broke 4 yards a carry every single game. Christian McCaffrey did. And then Saquon Barkley, one time, 3 yards a carry, one time. He's a home run hitter. He's a big hitter. He's going to run for a lot of long runs, but I just don't see. I think he's going to get worn out. There's some big dudes over there on the offensive side of the NFL. It's great on the defensive side of the NFL. He's going to be going in the defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles twice a year, Dallas Cowboys, DeMarcus Lawrence and Irving twice a year. Not even the Redskins. They're not no slouches there on the defense. They hit hard. Everybody's going to go gunning after him too. All those linebackers, all those safeties are going to come in and try to hit him in the mouth. I think this guy's going to get worn. He's going to be coming in the league this year, and I think, obviously, all the hype. I've never seen so much hype around one player. Obviously, we've seen Ezekiel Elliott. There were some question marks around him. This is just a player that obviously what he did at the scouting combine really jumped him a lot and put everybody on notice. All the strength he showed, the speed he showed is great, but all those body blows are going to add up, buddy, and they're not going to feel very good. You're going to have a lot of big guys squishing you every single play, and I just don't see him. If he had the Dallas offensive line, sure. If he had the Eagles offensive line, sure. But he doesn't. He has Nate Solder from the New England Patriots, but he's a pass protector. He's a pass blocker. He is a left tackle, so he's not really going to be the biggest help for a running game. Your best running game guy was probably your center, Richburg, and he's gone. He's in the Niners. So I don't really know where you're going to be. You have to have somewhere to run, and it's going to be interesting to see his first season. As far as I know, I'm supposed to be talking about guys who are coming back from injury. I know I went on my Saquon Barkley Giants rant for a little bit there, but I'm looking at these rankings, and he's 7th in the league. Is he the 7th best player in the NFL? He hasn't played a snap. None. Not one. Just college. Just in his shorts on the sideline at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis running. Yeah, he ran pretty fast. He put some bench presses up. Great. Has he ever been on the NFL gridiron? No. Have you seen a guy like Alvin Kamara, who is the third round draft pick from Tennessee that nobody was talking about, light it up? Yes. Do you see his stats? That's one of the main stats. Look at stats from college for running backs and look how they transfer to the NFL. They're pretty spot on. They do transfer. It's not like a receiver who was all right in college and then all of a sudden found a good quarterback and turned into this stud. Like, crazy. Like, where did Larry Fitzgerald go to college? I think he went to Pitt. I mean, not a big school. Look at a lot of these receivers. You could find them. They can go to the biggest school in the world. I mean, DJ Moore went to Maryland. They're pretty cruddy. I'm sorry, in the Big Ten, they're one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. They are. He's going to be having a good career at Pablo, and I'm assuming him and Cam get on the same page. But I mean, look at they don't come from the biggest schools in the world. They find good quarterbacks. Running backs though usually transfers. Usually that transfers from college to the pros. So I mean, if they were a burner, big gainer guy, like a big home run hitter guy, where it's gonna be like once or twice a game, where he's gonna bust a 50-yarder and find the end zone. Yeah, that's what Saquon was, and that's all he's going to be in the NFL. He's not going to be I'm hearing all over the place. Oh, he's going to be a bell cow running back. He's going to be the next Le'Veon Bell. He's going to be able to take it every single time. 35 touches a game. He never had over 30 touches a game ever in his career, ever. I don't think he had over 25 touches in a game once. I think his highest at Penn State was like 25. Or 20 or 22. I mean, I could look at how many touches in a game for Saquon at Penn State. I just don't think he had that many touches. You have Trace McSorley. He's a dual threat quarterback. I just don't think that he's going to be able to put up the volume that is necessary in the NFL. He's going to be a great running back. But I don't think he's going to be putting up. I mean, look at his most attempts in a game rushing was 28 at Iowa in 2018? Yeah. I mean, 2017 is this last year? Well, last year's really his 1 year. He had a big breakout season. Yeah, 2017. Yeah, most attempts was 28. The next highest was 21. There you go. I mean, yeah, these are great numbers, obviously. 158 yards on 17 carries is great. 137 yards on 18 carries. You're not going to get that in the NFL. It's about volume. Why do you think the Steelers, who have the best running back and the best quarterback, throw the ball and give the ball on the ground to their running back 35 times a game? Because you can't force the ball to AB every time. You have to spread it around. You have to use what's working. I mean, this is a perfect example of what he just does not have the volume. Back to what I was originally talking to after my soapbox on Saquon Barkley. There are some guys who are coming back from injuries who I'm a little wary about. Odell Beckham Jr. being one of them, but the guy's a talent. Honestly, he's going to get his numbers. It doesn't usually translate to wins for his team. The Giants, even if he does well, doesn't seem to help him out. For some reason, I don't know why. When he scores, they lose. But I mean, this is a fantasy show, so nobody really cares. Not everybody's a Giants fan out there, and they're going to care if the Giants win or not. They want Odell Beckham in the end zone. They want Odell Beckham to get touches. So yeah, he'll get touches. He'll get in the end zone. So he's worth drafting. I just don't like him like number 8 in the draft. I like Michael Thomas better than that. But yeah, I mean, there's other guys who are coming back from injuries. We talked about David Johnson a little bit. Obviously, Odell Beckham's a big guy. I'm trying to think who else is there. There was one guy on the tip of my tongue who had Aaron Rodgers, but we saw him at the end of last season after the collarbone healed up. He's fine there. I think Zeke's going to be great coming back after actually, I think. Even though they didn't make the playoffs, they really were hoping the Cowboys do. Their rivals win the Super Bowl, obviously, in the Eagles. But I think the fact that Saquon missed 6 games, that's 6 games of carries of body blows that he didn't have to take. I think this year he's going to come back fresh and he's going to come back really, really hungry this year. I think, unfortunately, PPR, for some reason, he might be undervalued. because of the fact that when they do throw the ball, it's more the short yardage passing to the receivers, like to, I don't know, do they even Cole Beasley or Ryan Switzer, whoever they have there, and whoever they didn't cut there in Dallas. Obviously, no more Jason Witten, so that's maybe we're gonna see more of the passes out of the backfield to Mr. Elliott this season. I think that he could be considered quite undervalued at running back there for a PPR situation at least. I'm trying to see here for Saquon. Okay, so in that game where he had 28 attempts, he did catch the ball 12 times, so that's not terrible. That's good. That's a good game. Who's that against? That was that tight game against Iowa. Okay, well, interesting. Just looking at his stats, it's interesting. All right, we're going to come back and do some more talk on. I'm going to figure out who those other injured players I was trying to think about, whether it's worth drafting them or not, or thinking that they're going to be taking a little bit to come back. Obviously, Odell's a big one. David Johnson's a big one. And we'll do some more talk on that and some more teams when we come back after the break. Stay tuned.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Final segment of the day today on a Tuesday. In here with yours truly, Tom Dougherty. That music just likes to cut right off. I did just remember who the other guys who I'm going to talk about. Greg Olson's coming back off of injury. He definitely. There's just too many good tight ends out there. I mean, looking at the rankings, Kyle Rudolph is like way down the rankings. Even Evan Ingram, I think, on the Giants, it's another option, I think, for Eli. I think I'm starting to realize a little bit more and more now why they probably didn't take Sam Darnold, whether they didn't like him that much or whatever. I think that they had a chance to get a guy who's didn't need to even have a conversation about whether he needed a year off or whatever. I think they want to have to deal with that with the quarterback situation. So they got Saquon. He's ready to go, plug and play, boom. They have now Evan Ingram, the tight end. They have obviously Odell coming back, and they'll go from there. Sterling Shepard probably will get a little bit down year fantasy wise because of the volume. He's going to lose some touches to Saquon Barkley. So I'm starting to realize why they wanted to see what they can get out of Eli at the end of his career. Maybe make a run for it with this roster that they have now. However, as far as guys who are injured, like I said, Greg Olson, I'm just never. He's great. He has great chemistry with Cam Newton. He is very injury prone. Cam doesn't really protect him very well. He kind of leaves him out to dry a lot when it comes to those catches over the middle of the field or whatever, and he ends up getting hurt seemingly every year. Another guy is Tyler Eifert, another tight end in Cincinnati. I just think there's other guys. Jimmy Graham's in Green Bay now. I think he's going to be a great weapon for Aaron Rodgers. I said Evan Ingram. There's Travis Kelce if you can, Gronkowski if you can. Have that pick to be able to go grab those guys. I love Travis Kelce. I think if you listen to the last episode from last Wednesday or last Thursday, I love Travis Kelce a lot. And then, like I said, Zach Rudolph, Jordan Reed, if he can stay healthy. There's tight ends all over the place in the NFL to be able to be snagged up. So I would not I would take a little flyer maybe on Greg Olsen if you absolutely have to. But if you're deciding between him and Zach Rudolph, or him and Evan Ingram, or him and why can't I think of anybody else, or him or anybody else I'm trying to think of right now off the top of my head as it comes running back. The OJ Howard, or even the kid down in Atlanta, Austin Hooper as well. So I mean, there's guys all over the place when it comes to tight ends who are going to be pretty usable a lot in fantasy wise this season, as far as volume. More guys coming off of injury. As far as on the offensive side, there's a lot of defensive guys like Jamie Collins is coming back. Allen Robinson. Obviously, he's on a new team. He was hurt and then was able to sign as a free agent with the Bears. That's going to be double whammy because number one, you're going to be coming in with a number one young quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky, who had an up and down year last year. I think nobody's really going to be talking about him fantasy wise, but Allen Robinson can be a fantasy target. He can be a weapon. He's a big, tall frame out there. Got strong arms. He's a Pro Bowler in 2015. Obviously, the ACL was a big red flag, but it was way back in week 1 of last year. So by week 1 of this year, obviously, it'll be a full year, full rehab and everything. Hopefully, he'll be a full participant at training camp and everything. So I think he'd be just fine. It'd be a nice little addition, another weapon for that rookie, for not rookie, but for a second-year quarterback to throw to can only be a help, I think, because, I mean, young quarterbacks are always looking for ways to get the ball down the field, and if they can get a receiver who gets open pretty easily, get some good separation. You see all these veteran quarterbacks throwing guys open and fitting balls into tight little windows. I mean, if you can give even a little bit more, open that window up a little bit more for a quarterback, or make it even a fraction of an inch, or not an inch, but fraction of a foot or easier for a quarterback, it will go that far for you, because I mean, he'll fit the ball in and you can get some yards out of it. So that'll be a big deal for the Bears up there in Chicago. Obviously, we took Aaron Rodgers. He did come back last year and showed off that he's probably just fine. Deshaun Watson, that's another one. Oof. What to do with Deshaun Watson? Second ACL injury. If it was the first one, I think I'd be a little bit more comfortable. It's his second one. He does have some good weapons there in Texas, in Houston. With obviously you have Hopkins, who I love. I love DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I had him last year, and even without Deshaun Watson, he put up numbers. I love DeAndre Hopkins. Honestly, would not mind taking him with my first pick. So no, you can't knock that team. But Deshaun Watson, I mean, the fact that he put up so godly numbers last year. Such godly numbers last year while he was in there. I mean, he put up more touchdowns in that short amount of time than Joe Flacco did all season. I'm pretty sure. I think I just went through all the touchdowns from last year. But by quarterback, I think that the fact that if you get that defense back where it is for Houston, healthy, he'll be on the field a lot, and he'll be able to put up a lot of points. And I think that he's going to, I mean, it's a quarterback. It's not really, I mean, yeah, it's his leg and he runs a lot. I don't think it's really going to hinder him that much as far as him being slower off the ball, whatever it is. I think he's going to be just fine. His footwork is shown to be really good, and I think he'll be okay. Honestly, I mean, drafting him this year, I might take a little bit of a pause for a second before pressing the button, but I probably still would do it because he's just too good of a talent. He's too good of a talent, and he was kind of like a little peekaboo, hey, and then maybe teams forgot about him, and they aren't going to really plan. I mean, I think they're going to prepare for him just as they would any quarterback, but the fact that he had quite such a year last year, set the league on fire for that short period of time, if he can come back and take those talents and spread it out over the whole season, maybe not go as, I mean, he doesn't even have to like do what he did with that volume. He can just be more spread that out all throughout a whole season. It would even be impressive if you could have 19 touchdowns over the whole season for a quarterback at that age. Would be great. But he did it in 7 games, or was it 6 or 7 games last year? Imagine if you could extrapolate that out times 2 or even times 3. if you could, with playoffs and everything too. So, Deshaun Watson, it would take me I would probably do a little hiccup, little step. It's not going to, obviously, if it's your turn to pick and he's sitting right there. I mean, he's the 4th ranked quarterback right now on Fantasy Pros for a reason. So he's going to put up some numbers, and I think that the Texans will be just fine, especially if they can keep that defense healthy. Obviously, down at OTAs, I think he was a full participant at OTAs this year. Obviously, if it comes to so you have a lot of X factors and everything there with the whole Texans in general, because of the fact that you have on both sides of the ball so many X factors and options to win and to help your team move forward if they can stay healthy. Whether it's Whitney Merciless, whether it's J.J. Watt, whether it's Jadeveon Clowney, whether it's your quarterback, running back, anything. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins has done a good job staying healthy most of his career. So hopefully he can keep that going this season, and the Texans can stay injury free, and we can really see what they can do when they are injury free. All right, moving on. At the end of the show here today, should I do a quick little mock draft here? With the 5 minutes to go, if we can run through it really fast, we'll do a 10-team PPR really quickly here at the end of the show. I do want to do one. Let's see if I can get it up really quickly. Mock draft simulator. Here we go. PPR, 10 teams. I want to go really fast, and we'll do a rapid fire and randomize this off. I'm going to do my one flex guy and 2 receivers, as they always like to. It's always good practice. I mean, it's always good practice to get these in here, because you never know what players will fall to you. You don't want to be surprised sitting there. So I was the 3rd pick overall. Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley go first. I'm going to take Antonio Brown 3rd. That's kind of a no-brainer. Goes David Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott goes 5, even a PPR. Then Kamara, Odell, Saquon goes 10. Here's my 2nd pick here. Did I get a receiver? Now I need a running back, and we're going to take Christian see, the thing is, I would love to take Devontae Adams, the same bye week as Antonio Brown, so that always throws a wrench in things. Looking at the rest of my running backs here, we have Jared McKinnon, Devontae Freeman, Christian McCaffrey. Let's just take McCaffrey and run with it. He's going to get plenty of catches at the backfield. I think the McCaffrey versus McKinnon question is always up there. Obviously, LeSean McCoy there too. McKinnon actually didn't get taken in between my picks because for some reason I have McCaffrey, and we're going to take. Now we're going to. Oh no, did he get taken? Oh no, he didn't get taken. So let's take Jared McKinnon with this 3rd round pick, because I like him a lot. And I think he's going to get the ball a lot out of the backfield from Jimmy G. A lot. So we got a bunch of people go, a bunch of receivers. We had our first quarterback actually go already. Aaron Rodgers is gone. Jordan Howard's gone. So it looks like Demaryius Thomas kind of fell to me to be my 2nd receiver. I like that just fine with Kirk Cousins. With almost was Kirk Cousins. More like Case Keenum there. Then I would Jarvis Landry, also on Jeffrey. We'll take Jarvis. We'll see what happens in Cleveland. This is rapid fire, so don't take me too seriously in this. As we got our receivers. Let's look for some more running backs here. As Rashard Penny drops to me. Alex Collins is already gone in the 6th round. Rashard Penny's the 19th ranked running back in this draft right now. With Deion Lewis, I think that because they're going to throw the ball to the backfield a lot in Seattle, wants me to draft a running quarterback already in the 6th round. No, we're going to take Rashard Penny. I don't want Russell Wilson. I stay away from Russell Wilson. I'm sorry. I just do. All the quarterbacks off the board. Or is it my turn again? Now I take quarterback. Take Carson Wentz. I'll take Carson Wentz. He's going to be fine. One of the guys talked about injury-wise. He's going to be fine. Honestly, it is the ACL. Him and Deshaun do like to move around a lot. But I think that if anything, that'll keep him more in the pocket, which I think actually can help them really shred the offenses or defenses. That is. Corey Davis opens up. Oh, he's a good player. I need a running back though. I have so many receivers. He's going to fill my bench up again. I need to have a receiver. Let's take him again. I just like Corey Davis. I think him a full season of being healthy this year is going to be really good for the Tennessee Titans. Again, but all these receivers. It's all about the receivers, obviously. I want a pass-catching running back like Tevin Coleman or Chris Thompson. Let's take Tevin Coleman because he's still the 31st ranked running back. Marlon Mack's on there too, Devontae Parker, Cooper Kupp. Jamison Crowder is actually the guy they want me to take number one. The first guy is recommended. As we come to the end of the show here, I don't want to run by. So we'll quickly just do Cooper Kupp. We're going to go quick here at the end of the show. There's my Corey Davis pick. And look at that. I did a 10-round guy. Okay, yeah, I just saw it. It omitted. That's right. I took out kickers and I took out all the kickers in defense, so we don't have to worry about that. I took a couple more. I'll take Chris Thompson and Cooper Kupp, and that's about it. Is that it? Yeah, that was it. I cut it short, so I don't have to deal with all the minutia picks. We like obviously defenses and kickers. You try and take the best one you can. You're probably gonna mix and match those guys anyways throughout the season, just like I do. Right? Sometimes I'll hold two kickers and try and decide week to week and then drop one. All right, that'll wrap it up for the show. As we have done a lot, we talk about some injured players coming back. Talked about individual teams. Give you my thoughts on Saquon Barkley for sure. Midway through that show a little bit, as we talked about some guys getting paid. Also, some of the some of the holdouts we still have post minicamp. As we are coming to the end of this wait almost. We're getting there. We're midway through June. We have another month or so to go, and then we get into training camp. So we'll be happy when that happens. All right, everybody, we'll be back on Thursday. Have a good middle of your week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.